Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Here we like to do things budget friendly, and if you are like me and have champagne taste but on a beer budget, these videos are for you. We are going to attempt to make the little soap on a rope with grapes from the Temu Products and Amazon products that I have ordered. Now keep in mind, this is just for funsies. There's going to be a lot of trial and error in this. This is one of my first projects in making soap products at home. And I don't know what I'm doing, okay? We're just gonna put that out there. I don't know what I'm doing. You guys might be screaming through your screen going, Faith, you're doing it all wrong, but that's okay. That's okay, because making mistakes can be funny. Can be entertaining. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So anything that I'm going to be using today that is still available, I will link and list in the description box down below. A couple products are from Amazon, and then the rest is from Temu. Step number one is gathering our materials, grabbing our soap dye, our fragrance oil, our mold, double boiler equipment, our twine, and a stir stick, which is just a plastic chopstick that I use. Step number two is going to be cutting our twine, one piece for each one of these. And there, I believe, are 24 in here. So I'm going to cut 24 of the pieces of these twines. And I also have set up approximately the same amount, 24 pieces of soap, one for each circle. So that's what we're going to start with. Next up is putting a small knot into each one of these pieces of twine. So I'm just going to double it over twice and do that for each one. Now that we have our knots connected and tied into each one of these, I have decided that what I would like to maybe try is a threader to get these through. I just figured this might be an easier way to get these threaded into our mold here. So we want the knots to be on the inside. So I suppose I can try to pop this through the bottom, feed this through here. Bear with me, doing this on camera is a little bit more complicated than just doing it off camera. So I'm going to pull that through. That worked perfectly. So just keep that in mind, that this little doohickey bobber is going to come in very handy. And I'm going to continue that with the knot being on the inside of the mold to all of these, and I'll be right back. We should look something like this now that everything has been fed through. I'm going to come in here and cut all of these, making sure that these are nice and tight and the knots are pulled all the way through. I'm just going to cut off all of these little ends. This is what you're going to be left with. I did blow away all the little schnivels that was left behind, and I just used the mold itself as a guide to how short I want those little pieces cut off to. And then we have all of our string hanging down. My double boiler is going. I'm going to go ahead and put my Pyrex measuring cup into the hot water. I'm going to keep an eye on this. This should only take about 5 minutes to melt, but I am going to continuously stir as we go so that we can get this thoroughly melted through. Everything is melted. I've reduced the temperature on this a little bit so that I can maintain it being melted. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the food dye. I've selected Grape Violet because why not? I'm going to just stir until I get my desired color, which, I don't know, maybe that was 5 drops. 5 drops. And I've got a really nice purple color. Next, I'm going to add in my scented oil, which for this I have chosen cherry cheesecake. It's probably the fruitiest flavor that I have in that bakery set. I would say that would be maybe about 20 drops that I just put in there. Stirring it all up. I'm going to cut off the heat and we're going to pour it into our mold. Now here's the tricky part. We're going to try this as our step 1. And I'm just going to pour in the melted soap into the mold just like that. Just the whole shebanger. And then, very carefully, of course, and try not to burn myself, I'm putting this right on top. Squishing that in. And I don't know if I have enough soap in there. I might not. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If not, we'll have to pull this all apart and try again. Now for good measure, just for spits and giggles, I did turn it upside down for a little bit to see if we can get some more of that soap down into the top of the mold, just in case. But I am now going to put it in the refrigerator to chill the rest of the way. I've had this in the freezer for about 30 minutes. It didn't fit in my refrigerator. So I put it in the freezer for about 30 minutes and I am going to use my blow dryer on the hottest setting so that I can attempt to gently remove the mold without cracking the balls. So we're gonna put it on high heat. This will be red for high heat, and we're going to just ever so slightly and gently warm it up to separate the two plates. I don't know, you guys. I think I may not have put in enough soap. Moment of truth. So some of them have little dimples in them. in the bottom. Next, we need to take a look at the tops. Well, it's not bad. Some of them aren't bad. The ones that are meh, the ones that have the little dimples in them, I can just cut those back out and melt those down and use it for something else. So I'll have to pick through the ones that I like the most. But some of them turned out pretty cute. So now I'm just going to use my fingers to smooth out the rough spots. And of all the pieces that I have made, I have 5 grapes that I can, within my perfectionism standards, agree with. The rest of them I'm going to remelt and we're gonna try again. So I'm just smoothing out with my fingers, not doing anything special, just smoothing out the edges to pull off the little remaining soap little pieces from the mold. And that's it for this part. So I'm gonna go back to the drawing board, remelt some more soap, and we'll put it back in the freezer and cool it down again. See, even this one, I don't know that I care for just because it's got that pucker, but I suppose, you know, sometimes grapes do look like that. So what I'll do is I'll just keep these ones that are okay and mildly unperfected, and we'll sprinkle those in just to give us a little bit more of a realistic appearance of we don't always have perfect bunches of grapes, and go from there. Take number 2, I have my mild duds here, and I have remelted everything and put in extra soap bits, extra smelly frou-frous, and put it back in the freezer. So we're gonna do all the same steps again. We're gonna heat this up just a little bit so that we can gently remove this. I did the same thing. I put in the top or the lid. I did put it upside down for a little bit to see if I could get some more of that soap kind of evenly dispersed, and then set it flush in the freezer. So let's go ahead and do the next step one more time with our blow dryer. So I think what we'll do next time around is we will fill this to the top, right? We'll have a nice even layer of the soap here. This is the one that the strings will go in, okay? We'll wait till that solidifies, and then we'll put in the soap in here on this one, nice even layer up until like a little bit over the top here. So it just very barely kind of drifts over the top. And then we will put it together like this for it to kind of adhere to the opposite sides so that they kind of sandwich together. I think that's going to be the best way to do it. Sadly, I do not have enough soap to do this again. I need to get more soap so that I can do this. Do we have one good one? We have one good one. One good one that turned out. And that's it. All of the other ones, they're just not full enough. And I don't like that. All of the bottoms turned out really nice, but it's just up at the top that did not. So I don't like that. It is not good enough for me personally. So I'm just gonna go ahead, melt these back down again, and we'll do it all over again, doing it the way that I thought was gonna be the best way. Now, the reason why I did it this way is because this is what I have found online and how people used this mold. It's not working that way. So just throwing it out there, we have to start fresh and try a different method. Take number 3. So I realized if I did this method that I wouldn't have to use all of the forms. So I filled it halfway. So let's see if this is going to give us what we want. Now, I suspect it's not, but no harm in trying. So far, the top looks good. I know you guys are waiting patiently to see. We have one that looks pretty funny, at least one on the top. See if they stick together. That's the other question I have in mind. Okay. Clear and obvious seam. Okay. So there's a clear and obvious seam. My perfectionism in me says I don't like that. So in the end, here's what I think works the best. The method we first used works the best, but I think you have to melt enough soap to fill this tray dang near up to the tippy top. And I have no more soap to do that with. So now we know. Here are the best ones from this batch. I did peel off the portion of the seams. Now I want to see, can we do anything to rectify the seam situation? Warm it up a little bit. Use my fingers. Overall, I just don't like that appearance. Yes, by the way, I'm just reutilizing these strings and I'm just pulling them right out of the soap. So I'm just yanking it straight out of there so that I can reuse the string. I did the last time I did this, I just melted the string with the soap hanging over, the strings hanging over the double boiler. I almost caught the kitchen on fire, so do this, not that, okay? Take number 4. Hopefully this is the last time. I melted everything down, including my original, what I thought were duds. And Koi is gonna be here to help. So let's just see what happened. So far the bottom looks nice. I don't want to get prematurely hopeful. I don't know, you guys. I don't know if it's the mold or what. I've got a couple of nice ones. Now I have been doing this for about 5 hours of threading, rethreading, melting, remelting, freezing, refreezing. So I am a little frustrated, to be honest, but I think I have a couple of good ones that I could potentially use and just make a small little bundle of grapes. Overall, I feel like the key is filling up the soap in this tray almost to the brim. Now, somebody had suggested using a funnel and pouring the soap in through the holes. But if I did that, then I wouldn't have room for the rope. So then how would I put the rope through? I have questions. So I have made a giant mess and cleaned it, and made a giant mess and cleaned it. Here we are left with our tray of duds. Basically anything that has too much missing up at the top. Now the bottoms all turned out great because we set it on the bottom, right? So the bottoms turned out great, right? But the tops, not so much, okay? So this is our tray of duds. And this is the tray of acceptables. So we have they have some bubbles and stuff like that, this up at the top, which again, my perfectionism in me says, I don't like it as much, but it's better, not best, but better. And then of course, I did scrape off the seams using my fingernail. And then kind of smoothed it out with my fingers. I just put it back on this tray until we can get these all twined together in a kind of a braid. I'm gonna friendship braid them like you used to do when you made friendship braids with all the little different colors. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's just a simple knot. And then for this, I'm going to do that and create a loop at the very end like that, so that it can hang or hook over a faucet, either a bathroom faucet or a kitchen faucet. I just want to make sure that I want to leave a large enough opening so that it will fit over a faucet, just in case you have a spray nozzle or something like that where the spray nozzle is kind of big. You want to make sure that this will go over that. So these are I'm okay with these. It's a little over half. But the optimal is to fill this tray up as full as possible. Now it could be an issue with the tray being too flopsy mopsy, because when you put it in there and you put the soap in there, it stretches out. So maybe ideally it could be a flaw within the mold itself, not having very sturdy of sides here, so that when you put it together, it allows for the soap to squish up into the top, because I did have a lot of soap around the perimeter. So ideally, I would have had enough soap that should fill up all the top gaps here, ideally. So could it be a soap mold issue? It could be. And again, I could potentially pour the soap in through the holes that are in this one with a funnel. But then where would the string go? Okay, so these are some of the issues that I have come across. Filling half of it and then filling another half and then flipping it on top of each other didn't work. I did not like that center seam. That didn't work out at all. So the only way to make this work is to fill this up, pour it all in, and then flip this on and squish, squish, squish together. I did do one little flip so that we could try to get as much down into the top as possible. And perhaps maybe next time that's how I will do the mold, so that we can have more boogery looking bottoms than tops. Because when you pull it up like this, you're not going to really see the bottom of the grape. So maybe that will be a next time. But we're 5 hours in. This is where I'm going to leave it, and then we'll attack next how to bind these together in making this more of a rope. I'm going to start wrapping up my grapes to create my bundle. I've taken 3 so far and I have them staggered, and then I tied a knot in it and left the loose piece upwards so that I can essentially wrap that in so it will be concealed. I'm going to take, I don't know, I would say, just for safety's sake, because I don't know how much I'm going to need, maybe about 3 feet out of my roll here. And I'm going to do the friendship knots, like if you were to do a friendship bracelet. So I don't know if you guys remember how to do that, but I want to knot, create my loop, feed my twine through, and pull up. I'm going to keep doing that. Create my loop, pull through, and pull up. So it creates this braid effect. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but if you remember how to do friendship bracelets, I don't know if you remember how to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. Now I need to add in more grapes. And I'm going to continue to do this in a staggered fashion so that when I add more grapes, it'll create a bunch. So I added 2 more. And then I'm going to do my friendship braid again. In between adding my grapes, I am making sure to continue doing that friendship braid all the way up, incorporating the new strands that we put in. And I'm just kind of testing as I go, how far up do I need to continue on my knots before I add in more. Sometimes I have to add in a couple of more knots than I thought I did, but this is how I am doing it. So now I'm just adding in my last few bits of grapes. So my knots have stopped here, and I'm adding my last few bits of grapes around. And then I'm going to continue knotting those in. And I'm going to continue doing those knots all the way up and around. So I'm going to continue all the way up and around with that knot. And remember, this is like what you would do if you were making friendship bracelets. Remember when we used to make the little rainbow ones and they were all different colors? That's basically all I'm doing. And I'm going to follow that all the way up until I get to a point where I think that I like the length of my vine and the width of the little loop that I need to create so that this can hang over a faucet. So I would want it to be like this. And I want this whole area covered with the little knots. Now I ran out of cording, which is fine. I have plenty more to go. So I'm going to pull out probably another 3 feet and we'll start another run here. Oops, I want to make sure that the knot is going to come up. And we'll go ahead and start again, making sure that those 2 tails are going to be covered by the new knots, like so. And we'll just keep going up some more. Now, sadly, how I finished this off ended up not getting filmed. So I'll just try to walk you through what I did. All I did was fold over to create the loop and then continue to knot around until all of the little strings were covered after I cut off the little ends, okay? And then to finish it, I just added in a little tiny knot, an additional knot in that last little strip so that I know for sure it's not gonna slip through, and then just left it at that and cut off the little end. So this should be plenty sturdy enough that it's not going to go anywhere. Also, it's going to be wide enough so it should fit over almost every type of faucet, including ones that have the spray nozzles on it. So this is going to be our finished product. This is with, I think, 5 of them that ended up not turning out, so I was still able to create a pretty decent bunch. Now, I did have a thought in my mind that occurred to me as I was trying to fall asleep at night. I was thinking, what if we took this part of the form, which would mean the top of the grape, because this is the one that we feed through this. So it would be the top of the grape up here. And being that I don't really care for how these turned out, they do look like a realistic grape. Don't get me wrong. I mean, tell me that this does not look like real grapes. But if you were a perfectionist like me and would like that top of the grape to be more polished, here's a thought. Now, I don't have any more soap, so I can't go ahead and recreate this using this hack or this fix that I'm thinking of. But putting in a little dab of brain fart, not glue, Faith, soap, putting in a little dab of soap in the bottom of these, laying it flat, letting that cool, and then putting in the soap that's in the base of it, fill it up just like normal, taking the lid with the hardened soap, putting that on top. I think that will give me perfect little grape tops. because obviously we have perfect little bottom grapes, but the tops of the grapes for me are not perfect enough. But overall, I do believe this turned out great. So learn from my mistakes. Maybe try that tip or that hack. It should not take you 5 hours to do. The longest part of this, if I would have been able to get this into the mold, pop these out of the mold, clean these up a little bit, the longest part of this entire process would be winding up and doing these little knots. That would be the longest part of it as you're physically doing something. The other long part would be letting it cool and sit and taking that time either in the refrigerator, freezer, or the countertop. So not too shabby. For my first go around without very many instructions, just trying to figure out what works on my own. This is our finished product. So what do you guys think? I think it turned out pretty cute if I don't say so myself. Yes, I'm wearing something completely and totally different. This has been a 2-day in the making project because we had lots of epic fails in the beginning, just trying to figure out how to get this mold to work. But I think if you know that you need to fill up the measuring cup so that it is actually, because it's a 2-cup Pyrex measuring cup. If you know that you need to fill that up all the way to its 2-cup and just keep melting soap until it's actually 2 cups of soap, that would be my first tip and recommendation for if you were to use the same mold. Second tip, second recommendation is make sure that when you're doing this, that you have extra soap and enough soap to get this done in case you make a mistake or in case you have ones that don't turn out quite as you like. I was fortunate enough that I just was missing 5 and I still could come up with a cute little bunch of grapes. So just make sure that you have enough soap or extra soap so that you can make a second mold if you don't feel like melting the first one down again. Another tip is definitely use that needle threader to get these through here. Lifesaver. It was probably took me maybe all of 2 minutes to get all of these threaded through. Instead of having to poke them and pull them, it was just so much easier, okay? Another tip is if my theory is correct and if you want more perfect tops to your grapes, try putting in just a little dab of, I keep wanting to call it glue, a little dab of the soap into this and let it solidify before putting this into the basin or the bottom part of the mold. You will need a lot of this. In order to wrap the entire vine, I used maybe 12 feet. 12 feet. That's a lot of feet, but it's a lot of knots, okay? That's a lot of knots. So you will need a very large roll. I still have plenty left. I could probably do maybe another 1 or 2 bunches of grapes. I would say that with using 1.5 feet as my string to create the grapes, I probably could have gotten away with only using 1 foot if you need to save that extra little 6 inches, because I do have roughly about 6 inches of waste that I did end up cutting off. I think as far as tips go to make this easier, that was probably all that I have for you guys. But utilizing this video will probably help you do it faster the first time around. I didn't get that luxury, so this was all trial and error. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and I am so thankful that you guys stopped in to watch today's video and just watch my trials and errors and learning throughout this process on how to create this cute little bunch of soap on a rope grapes that I think are going to make the perfect holiday gifts. And my thought, hear me out, and if you guys are interested, let me know, that I could make a bunch of these and sell them on Whatnot. Again, keep in mind, fully customizable. You can use different soap bases. You can use different fragrance oils. You can use different food coloring. My daughter wants me to make green grapes next. Why not? But yes, fully customizable. You can jazz it up with little bows, embellishments, however you want. You could present them in a beautiful little gift box wrapped with a beautiful little bow. But what I am thinking, that this might be a little tricky to ship out to hotter climates based off of the type of soap that I have. Okay, this is more of a glycerin soap, and I feel like this has a lower melting point. So maybe if you're going to be shipping them, consider something that melts at a higher temperature. Throwing that out there as well. But there you go. What do you guys think? If you are new here, I would love it if you considered subscribing. Also, don't forget, like, share, and hype if you guys would be so inclined. And if you've got a free hype, that would be great. I would love it and super duper appreciate it. But until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye, guys.